What up, everyone? How you doing out there, y'all? It's your boy Chef Rodney 117 here, deliciously dope, Daily TV, Daily Chronicles, bringing it to you live. Okay, cool, excitement in the air, if you will. Check it out. I've got two OGs on the show today, y'all. Two. These people have been pioneers for years. They've been bringing it to your faces. But first and foremost, I want to talk about ex-con number 816462. Y'all may know him as Mr. Hash Bash himself. Mr. Adam Brook is on the show. And Adam's like, you know what? Let's talk to my boy. I got Mr. Danny Danko from North Leaf East Magazine on the show. Y'all, I can't, they speak for themselves. Icons like that, if you don't know who they are, you best learn and pay attention, because we're about to be dropping some knowledge today that you ain't know about. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome to the show. Eric is gone. Where did Eric go? He just dipped out. He's like, all right, that'll be fun. No, dude, thanks for coming on, you guys. How you doing this morning? What's up, Eric?
Hey, thank you for having us. And I just have to say, Adam is a hero of mine going back, I would say, close to 30 years or so, from my first Cannabis Cup experiences. As a kid working a booth, he was already, a speaker telling us about what was going on with Hash Bash in Ann Arbor and, with John Sinclair and with that battle. So, it's an honor to be on here with Adam. He's been a freedom fighter for longer than I can remember, and, been keeping that fight alive, in Michigan and all over the world. So props to Adam. And keeping us honest too. You know what I mean? Like, Adam's the guy who, you can't bamboozle Adam.
I learned real quick. Yeah. Adam, my man.
It's a no bullshit zone.
It's
I appreciate the kind words, Danny, and folks out there should also know that I really appreciate it, because I was given an award early on in my activism, and I spent 25 years paying it back. And over that 25 years, I've had fortune to meet people like Danny who have had great careers in this industry, which came out of my movement. So it's great to be on the show with you too, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. It all goes back to the plant. We have such a respect for the healing flower that is cannabis, and all of its forms. And, we just believe in freedom and freedom, especially for something so benign, and healthy and enjoyable and life-saving.
Oh, yeah.
And enjoyed by so many, it's not just like a few here and there. Like, now we know that from every walk of life, every different type of people, there are, cannabis users. And
yeah. And Adam and I have both heard Jack say it right to our face that if you replace opioids, alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, sugar, all of these poisons that are perfectly legal, if you replace those things in your life with cannabis, you will extend your life and you will improve your life. And that it's indisputable fact. So it's been people like Adam and you guys and so many people around the world.
Extend your life by 8 years.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting because it's like, I was a cannabis user for most of my life. Don't get me wrong. Started in high school. Let's face it, but it wasn't the same. You know what I'm saying? It was more of just like, hey, smoke this and things happen. You know, edibles were a thing. You know, you were living life, and I kind of just went through life, man. You know, be real, just went through life. Had ups, had downs, and you know, and then so this nasty bullshit COVID hit. You know, and so then I had to figure out how to kind of how am I going to continue? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like as I'm holding a joint, the answer was right there. You know, and so it's that's where the idea of Deliciously Dope came from. And it really, that's taken off, you know, that's a very, very humble brag. You know, I've had some awesome, amazing moments such as this, you know, pinnacles for me that were like, I get to sit down and do this and like, and be a part of this, you know, and, you know, they say good things take time. You know, Adam, that's where you've been consistent and got us to the point where we're at. And, you know, Danny, that's where you jumped in. And then they say great things happen all at once. And then that's when we all get to work together to bring this to people's, you know, attentions. And it's happening, y'all. It's happening because, look, most of these states, not even just the states in the United States from now to 2022, the legalization and all of that transformation, we call it. That's the, you know, progress we want, right? Whether we think it's going to get shot, whatever, that's what we want. Look at other countries, y'all. Yes, you do hear it. You know, Adam, I think you and I were talking yesterday about the gentleman in Russia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said that in his community where he lived, a kid in Russia was arrested for wearing a hat with a weed leaf on it.
Right.
That's like archaic.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so with the good, you're going to have the bad. You know what I'm saying? So that's what people don't understand, you know, and that's just it. You can't let the, you know, when in this industry, you know, when something bad happens, something really, it gets blown way out of proportion because of the stigma that still exists behind this plant. And that's unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate because it's like, well, who's really planning this? You know, who's really behind this? And really, at the end of the day, follow the money. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, cannabis has been shattering records across the world, you know, financially, you know, economically. People are coming back from, you know, from, I mean, would it be safe to assume, and would you guys agree that people are really using cannabis economically and medically to kind of combat and come back from COVID?
It's definitely helping. I mean, it was deemed essential.
Yeah.
I've, you know, I'm here on the East Coast, and I've seen, you know, clearly in Massachusetts and Maine how important it is to the economy, how important it is to people and just survival. I mean, on a personal note, you know, for me,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could deal with all of this without it. And I think there's a lot of other people out there just like me. And so, yeah, it's a lifesaver, and it's, you know, a great thing that, you know, and, you know, the thing about, you know, people like Adam and myself and you guys is that we're in service to the plant. You know, we're not trying to force the plant to serve us in any way. I mean, as you said, it's like what it gives you, you want to give back. And, and that's the thing. I just want to teach people about that. There's nothing wrong with making money and, you know, dispensaries and this and that and the other, but, you know, I also envision a world where I can go to the farmer's market and buy a jar of cannabis from, you know, a small batch, you know, farm that grew it right nearby, and in ways that I appreciate and in ways that are good for the earth. And so, you know, we still got a long way to go. And as you mentioned, there's still countries where you can be executed for cannabis, you know, out there in the world. So, so, you know, there's a long way to go. There's still prisoners. Just this week, Richard DeLisi was released just this week after, you know, serving just an inordinate amount of time, 3 decades plus for cannabis. It's outrageous.
Oh yeah, no, Adam, you were trying to say something?
Oh no, no, I have no idea what I was going to say. Good joint this week.
You're all right. You're all right. It's making
the COVID thing that you were talking about just a minute ago, as far as there was a conference with a bunch of scientists and stuff yesterday that was COVID and cannabis and COVID. And it was people that were not only drawing research from all types of things, from even just down to like the use of the normal person, to the use of someone with cancer, the use of someone with medical reasons. It's changed greatly even just since COVID. Like, I'm not sure if everyone's just been talking more, had more time to research and stuff like that. But now edibles are right up there with smoking, and tinctures made it on the line. Made it, they weren't even like a percentage before, And then on the other side, you got these people doing the research on the medicine, and like it's, calming the C storm, the cytokinase, the Th1 cytokines that create inflammation. And it's promoting the Th2 cytokines that reduce inflammation, anti-inflammatories. So like cannabis, CBD, and THC both are proven to help with people with COVID right now. And so it's important to know that.
Which is interesting because Adam and I had we had a conversation yesterday about the entourage effect and how that's not accurate anymore. Adam, you wanna share that? You want to elaborate? You blew my mind when you told me.
Not accurate. Not according to Dr. Lester Grinspoon. Yeah, according to Dr. Lester Grinspoon, he said that should be the ensemble effect, because if you understand what an entourage is, an entourage has a lead with a bunch of followers.
Right.
So we used to think of it as THC with a bunch of other cannabinoids. Well, it really is an ensemble effect because it requires all of them. Not one is not more powerful in that mix than the other, because they all have their role that they play. So, I've been doing this for 30 years and I learn new shit every day.
Oh yeah.
And I've had to change my lingo,
I like the
now specifically, I don't change my lingo when it comes to the word cannabis. I use marijuana, weed, pot, whatever lingo I want, wherever I'm at. And I know people who have switched and only use the word cannabis.
Yep.
John Sinclair once asked me, how come he keeps saying cannabis? And I said, oh, John, that's a new thing. A lot of these people only use the word cannabis, and we kind of laugh at that, but we understand why people do that, and I understand the reasoning. But to hold steady and fast to what I believe in, I would never change how I talk about it. To me, this is like the freest thing on the planet, and it's the only reason I ever got involved is I didn't understand the hypocrisy in it, and now we've come so far that it's interesting, because as far as we've come in 30 years, we have 30 more years to get where we need to be. I mean, there's a lot that's coming. All this research that's happening, there's something like 40 different universities that have studies going on right now. As this gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, more information will come out. And that's the answer, is the information, because the truth is there and it's harmless. There are no bodies. Remember, they legalized medical marijuana in California 20 years ago, and there are no bodies, contrary to what they were saying. So, we still have a long way to go, but we know that we won the war. Remember, drugs won the war on drugs. Okay? We won. It's over.
We just kept smoking weed and it just kept working out.
Now we have to rebuild our.
That's just it, man. And like at the end of the day, to be able to, because y'all are some of the people that I looked up to. The only thing is, like, I didn't actually. So I went to Hash Bash before. That was pretty much the only like marijuana event, cannabis event, weed event, ganja event, whatever you want to call it, whatever pronoun, insert pronoun here, and that's the only one I really fucked with, because like the cops didn't do anything. As long as you stayed inside that, these zones, they didn't really care. You know what I mean? And that was cool. But at the same time, like I was always nervous and still paranoid. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a good experience for me. And then once marijuana became legal in Michigan, I'm sure, in Hash Bash, like, it was a lot more relaxed. And now I can only imagine it. But, 2020, COVID, all that shit happened. I knew of Mr. Hash Bash. Sorry. I just didn't know that your name was Adam Brook. You know what I'm saying? I knew of Danny Danko, but I didn't know that your name was, you know what I'm saying? I didn't put the faces with the names. Yes, I flipped through and y'all, I've seen this shit. And My bad. But at the same time, I did smoke weed when I was doing that, so thank you. You know what I mean? But guys, it's seriously an honor to have you on the show. It really is.
Really is. And thank
Appreciate it.
Adam, I'm gonna go back to what you're saying. Like, you're just having a problem with the terminology on the entourage effect, correct? Now, you do believe in a synergistic effect of the different cannabinoids together and terpenes, right?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think that's what he was trying to say too.
But it's
in combination. Cannabinoids in combination with each other.
Combo effect, and yeah, that's right. And that's where the problem is now. And this is funny because as an activist, you know, I'm pro everything that's weed, right? So the CBD craze came, and I can't stand out on the street corners and scream how horrible this is, that you shouldn't buy that shit, that it's garbage, that it's not what you want, because what you want is a full spectrum, high CBD product with everything. And you can't explain that to people. We're not quite there yet. We will be. No. We're getting there.
That's why we're doing what we're doing. Absolutely.
People have to understand that. And it's just about information, because once they understand that this stuff is mainstream, then they separate the chaff from the wheat. You know, the good quality stuff rises to the top and the low quality stuff rises to the bottom. Remember this though. Budweiser never wanted to be the best beer. They only wanted to be the #1 seller. And guess what? They're the king of beers.
Yeah.
And it's garbage.
It's absolutely,
We've got that coming. We've got that coming in the weed game.
Oh, it's already here. You look at, there was
I've been fighting for 30 years. Why? So all these corporations you hear about can get involved that everybody hates. But when Coca-Cola's in the weed game, and when Monsanto gets into the weed game, well, they already are. But when all these other companies, when Marlboro's rolling joints, then we've gotten as far as we can go.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
You can't prevent that, unfortunately. All you can do is
a good thing, because you can still go get a good craft beer.
You can vote with your dollar. You can vote with your dollar, and I know I'm not going to be buying cannabis from Monsanto or Marlboro personally. And nor do I really want any Budweiser.
The problem is the masses do.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I think I envision.
But the problem is
the problem is, sorry?
He said the masses do. So, like, meaning,
I was just saying that the masses are.
They want just a cheap product, and whatever it says on the label, they're going to
matter what we do.
Well, we can educate them. The craft beer industry didn't exist, 40, 30 years ago either, but it came about because people realized that there was something else out there that was better. And now the craft beer industry has grown to compete with, the big boys. And, I think we're going to envision something similar in cannabis, similar kind of probably to cigars. I mean, people who are really into cigars and love cigars, they don't buy cheap packs of Philly blunts. They buy, expensive cigars because they want that experience. And I think, that's kind of a similarity more than alcohol, because all alcohol basically makes you feel the same,
Right. Quick question. Have you had a Cannagar?
Yes. Yeah.
Are they good? I've never had one.
Strong, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, are they good? If that's what you're into, then they're great. And I think that's the thing. Some people are just going to want to go to a store and buy their cannabis and walk away, and they don't care. They want gummies, and that's all. And then there's connoisseurs and aficionados and people, and patients, I think, that are going to be looking for the higher quality, and both have a right to exist. And I know which ones I'm going to choose, and everyone I know will as well. And, we have an endocannabinoid system. We have receptors in our bodies for this thing.
You ain't got no Jack Daniels or Budweiser system, I'll tell you that.
I mean, if you really look into alcohol, it's poison. I mean, it's just diluted poison. If you drank it pure, it would kill you.
It's poison.
So,
Yeah.
you know, and it's slowly killing you, even if you drink it slowly. I mean, that's what a poison does. So, and yet, you know, you can watch ads for it all day long on TV and billboards and everything else. So that's the hypocrisy, going back to what Adam was talking about. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that, you know, alcohol makes you docile and cannabis makes you question things. And that's the deep, dark secret. You know, it's not just about, you know, the racism, which it is certainly about. It's not just about, you know, petrochemical industry and, you know, law enforcement and, you know, prison guard unions, all of these vested interests and pharmaceutical companies. It's not just them that is the enemy. It's the fact that cannabis opens your mind and psychedelics open your mind, whereas alcohol and opiates numb your brain. And you know, you just look at which ones are allowed and which ones aren't, and which ones are cheap and which ones aren't, and you'll you know. That's the sinister, you know, truth behind it.
The answer is clear.
It's not just money. You know, it's not just money. It's not just, you know, it's thought that they're trying to regulate. It's your freedom. You know.
Right.
They want people to think for themselves, and talk about.
It's also a societal thing
that they don't normally talk about. Opening your mind, you know, they say, like, it's really just opening your mind to new ideas and then discussing those with friends and people that are around you. And cannabis, and especially psychedelics, can facilitate some very open thinking. And you're right, people that are just trying to control the masses in a way to have control, dominance, money, and all that stuff, then it's right where we're at right now, you know. And I feel there is a percentage of the people that are waking up and spreading the word. And, you know, I just hope in our lifetimes we can see our society to continue to open up to things like, you know, cannabis and psychedelics and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's never been more cannabis on earth, I think, than today.
Part of it,
so that's a good sign, even if most of it is not that great.
Part of it was what, Adam? Sorry.
Well, part of it is society's waking up to the fact that they were lied to for a long time. And they're willing to investigate. And, you know, one of the things I point out to people all the time is that back in the day, you couldn't get a newspaper article written about anything.
Nope.
Now there's a weed story on every television channel once a day in every community across the nation, and it's not the same story. You know, I used to get a story published because, you know, hash bash would happen and there'd be 87 arrests. And I could get that story published all across the nation because it was a weed story and there were arrests and all of that. Then it got to the point where you couldn't get any weed stories published because it was the popular thing. Right. Now it's news filler because it's legal, it's commonplace, you know, and it's everywhere. And that's just a game changer, because now there are people saying, oh, well, maybe what they told me isn't true. And maybe I should look into this pain relief, because everybody's in pain.
Yeah. And there's inflammation.
That's some of the best.
It's not causing pain.
Some of the best.
There's inflammation.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, you know, it's one of those. It's just a time thing. That's all. Yeah. We need more time.
Yeah. You know, people, I think what's happening, if I'm taking all of this in and kind of trying to, you know, assess it all, I think what's happening is society is waking up to it. Society is waking up to the fact that they were lied to, in addition to trying to pivot in the middle of a fucking pandemic, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So, of course, it's essential, you know? So, and then everything else going on in the world, you know? And so, like, people are trying to pivot with that and turn around. So, that being said, I've had a lot of people reach out to me personally and be like, hey, man, what about this? What about that? What about this? You know, I had somebody's 95-year-old grandmother call me and go, hey, I'm going to make up a name. She goes, it's Esther. I was like, oh, hi. Wow. Okay. And then she had all these questions and she's like, well, can you bring it to me? I personally couldn't, but I got it to her, you know, and to be able to help her It's amazing. You know, Eric, the CBDs, you know, stuff that the tinctures that you make, you know, my mom, you know, Cheryl, she's taking them. They're helping her headaches and back and stuff. Like it's this stuff actually works, you know, and she's been on pain pills for years. Her doctors were a little mad, but that was about it, you know? So it was like, yeah, she's taken care of. That set. Everything is great, guys. You know what I'm saying? You guys are killing it out there, setting the standard. You're just kind of like moving mountains so people like me can help other people out there. That's all it is. I'm just really filling a generational gap. You feel me? That's it.
I've had a lot of questions about those recently, especially my mushroom tincture, because I know a lot of people with certain chronic illnesses are looking for mushrooms, specifically like turkey tails, maitake mushrooms and stuff. And that was a supplement that I recently made as an immune booster, and you know, for some
I had it. It works.
Things, but I've been actually having a lot of people reach out, talking to people over the phone and a lot of emails. This morning, that was one of the things that I was dealing with before this, was a couple people with questions on it and a couple orders that came in for those. And just nice to talk with people, because now people are reaching out and thinking about the natural medicines, you know, following their doctor's recommendations, going with that stuff, but also searching for what else they can do to promote their health. And I think we're in a space right now in the whole health and wellness to where there is enough information, there's enough research and other companies doing really good things in the cannabis and other areas, you know, and infusing other medicines too. And I think we're on the right path as far as, you know, getting some good medicines out to people.
Oh, absolutely.
As a community of the cannabis community.
100%, dude. And, you know, that's why you're here, man. You're helping me. And it's like, I'll read something, you know, that Danny wrote, or something, you know, about, you know, something that Adam's doing, and I'll have questions about it. Now, you know, Adam will correct it. You know, he's like, no, that's how it is, because that's the truth. And I madly respect that. That's my point. Like, don't let me continue to think this if it's really this. You know, that's fine. Love it. Danny, yo, going from High Times Magazine to Northeast Leaf Magazine, how is that transition? If you could sum it up in, I don't know, 15 words or less, you know what I mean? Shit, like how did that feel? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just it's an evolution to something new, and also, you know, it's a different thing that, you know, I'm getting used to, because it's a free magazine, and there was so much pressure at High Times as far as, you know, sales and what the cover looks like and cover lines, and this is free, which makes me happy, because you know, that's why I do the podcast as well. It's just get the information out there to the people.
Podcast is Grow Bud Yourself.
Yes, indeed.
Right, cool.
Grow Bud Yourself.
There it is.
Yeah,
That sounds awesome.
I did one since 2011 at High Times called Free Weed, and from 2011 to 2018. And basically, once you know, the COVID hit and the you know, all of that, they basically moved out to California. They're under new ownership. And, you know, it was time to move on, you know. So I had to change the name of the podcast. So I came up with Grow Bud Yourself, because the idea is just to grow bud yourself, just like free weed. You know, the idea was the more people grow it, the cheaper it will be. It's not this big corporate thing. Everyone's always asking me, how do I get into the cannabis industry? I'm trying to get you out of the cannabis industry. Okay. I wrote a book on how to grow your own cannabis for beginners, because I have that book.
I have that book, and I'm growing cannabis with your help. Buy the book. And Eric, I'm like, yo, Danny Danko said this. Is this what that means?
I want you to have as many options, so that if you want to go to the dispensary, you can go to the dispensary. If you want to go to your extra room and pick up a product that's probably cheaper, probably better, you know, definitely the strain you want it to be, definitely treated the way you want it, then that's, you know, that's the option I wanted you to have, people to have. And because I had been over to Holland all those years ago to the Cup and seen grows and grew myself and all of that, I just was able to maintain, you know, that knowledge, and that was my lane, the cultivation editor. And so, yeah, the transition to Northeast Leaf has been such that, you know, it's a different model where the magazine's free. We send it out to all different dispensaries, head shops, wherever, you know, we can get people to put it out right now, especially it's a little tougher, but it's been great. You know, I mean, the people that I'm working with, they've been doing Northwest leaf and Oregon leaf, California leaf,
Alaska leaf,
Alaska, right, Maryland. They've been doing this for 10 years.
Killing it.
Yeah. And it's a great in every region that it's in. So it's an honor for me to be a part of that. And it's growing. I mean, they started Northeast Leaf right in September, right in the middle of the pandemic. We were planning this, you know, as this all happened and just kept it going, which is amazing for them to be expanding at a time when it seems like everything's kind of contracting.
Now, all of that based off of people like at Mr. Brook here. I mean, he's just blazing. He made it. You know, he made it. You know, want to do it. You know, he made it. You know, that he was a person you looked up to. You know, doing what you do for all the magazines, for all, you know, everything that you do with Grow Bud Yourself, just you being you. You know what I mean? You're able to have that life, and you're extremely thankful. And you owe, you know, people like Adam like that. The same as it kind of just goes up. You know what I'm saying? From us little guys to y'all. You know, Mr. Brook, I got to ask. In you know, kind of introducing you as, you know, inmate number 816462. You want to touch on that a little bit for the people that don't know?
Oh yeah, I was a well-known weed activist who one day had the cops knock on his door and raid his house, and they didn't find the weed they were looking for. They had they had a piece. I'll tell you what they had actually, and this is important for people to know.
Yeah.
Don't write shit down, motherfuckers.
Nope.
They had a piece of paper that they got off of a very well-known activist that was arrested out in Nebraska. And in a notebook, it had a business deal that he and I had.
Oh,
and
no.
They've got that. And they actually got that piece of paper 2 years after the arrest happened. And the local narcotics team took that, went and did a trash pull in front of my house, which is completely legal. I don't begrudge them. It's a shit move that the police do. And we're in a medical state. I consider what I throw in my trash medical waste. And they did a trash pull. They used that to get a warrant, and they came in my house. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, I procrastinate. I didn't take care of a felony I had. My father's deceased. I had his guns in the house, and they tagged me with the guns. I wasn't even home. It doesn't matter. They sent me to prison for 2 years. It was to take me out of the mix.
Yes.
It was because Michigan was starting to ramp up. 2011 through 2013, I was gone. And I was one of many people who were taken out in this nonsensical way. It's not like I was caught doing anything. You know, I know guys in our game who, you know, I got 200 pounds in the trunk of their car. I drive across the country. They get caught. We know the game. That this wasn't that. And it's just unfortunate that's the game they played. And nowadays that wouldn't happen because they wouldn't be able to get the warrant based on the weed. So, you know, we've come a long way. Unfortunately, it completely bars me from being in the legal industry. Even with all the expungement talk and stuff like that, don't forget, there's guys out there that got 7, 8, 10, 12 felonies off of a couple crimes, you know. And I got 6 of them, and you can expunge like 2. So, you know, whatever. It is what it is. I appreciate the fact that people still call me and talk to me, but the reality of it is that they hit me hard. You know, it was life-changing, but because of that, you know, I learned from it and I moved forward, and I've used it against them. That's all. You know?
Absolutely. Yo, it's like Snoop said.
I was in prison for 2 years and didn't smoke any weed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would have immediately, man.
No.
First thing I would have done just to calm them nerves. But it's like Snoop used to say back in the day, you know.
No. So here's the
water
thing.
runs deep. One more time. What was that? Sorry, Adam.
Yep. No. So I didn't smoke. I was going to explain this to you. I didn't smoke when I was in the joint because if you got caught, you would lose your visits. And I was on some medication.
Okay.
I was on pain pills, and they were urine dropping me to see if I was taking them. So I didn't. But my point in all of this is every group on the compound would come to me and say, hey, man, we know who you are. We got weed coming in, and we want to get you high. And I'm like, man, I appreciate that. You know, I don't really hang out with you white supremacists, or I don't really hang out with gay guys, or I don't really hang out with you the Native Americans, or there are all these, the Moors. There are all these different groups in the prison. And each time one of them got weed, they'd come to me and be like, hey, man, we want to get you high. So that was kind of cool, but I just avoided it. And to my point, I like to tell the government people that it was easy to go to prison and not smoke weed for 2 years. So your talk of addiction and bullshit, you can just put that away. I mean,
that's also
you miss it. Yeah. I missed my wife and my mom too.
Right.
Another point is like you saying all the different groups came to you and wanted to get you high. This is another thing of cannabis bringing everyone together, you know, like you had respect in there for what you did for the cannabis game, and all these other groups also smoke cannabis, and that, gave you respect, you know.
So I have a comment on that. I appreciate you pointing that out, but I have a comment about weed. The one thing I tell people about weed is that it brings together all kinds of people from all walks of life who normally would hate each other and not have anything to do with each other. But God damn it, if one of them has a joint and the other has a lighter, they will get high together. They will come together and talk to each other and possibly become friends, even though one's a Jew and one's a Palestinian, one's white and one's black, one's a cop and one's a criminal. I mean, it's amazing the people it brings together, and all age groups.
Yep.
I don't think there's another substance on the planet.
There's only one other thing on this planet that does the exact same thing. Sorry, one more time. Yeah, sorry. We're having a couple like audio issues. My bad, guys. I can scrub this out.
What is the one other thing, Chef? That's what I'm wondering.
Food.
Food
does the same thing. It don't matter from what walk of life you are. It doesn't matter.
Oh no, food is
you sit across from a person and enjoy a plate of food.
Good one.
Yeah.
The difference is people don't share food like they share weed.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
I know people
who but that's a whole
would give
story.
a guy, but wouldn't buy
pragmatic, you know.
I know, but it's amazing to me. And listen, Danny will tell you. Danny's a great guy, by the way. I just want everybody to know that. Danny will tell you. In this game that we play, you meet a lot of people, and you meet a lot of people that you wouldn't have anything to do with, and you wouldn't want them anywhere near you. But because of weed, you've known them for 30 years, and you take them for what they are.
And maybe plant a couple seeds along. Right? You know, how many of these people that we brought together in the weed game together, you're doing business or just smoking, and just a couple ideas traded, you know, maybe they'll plant some seeds in me, open my mind in a way that I needed, and maybe I'll do the same to them. You know?
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes it can
take years. The difference now is that the people, right. And the difference now is there's enough people involved that we have our options. You know, when Tom Forsad decided to create High Times, there weren't options. Now, there were some other dope magazines back in the day, But there weren't options. Now we've got guys, you know, there's been 20 magazines in the last 20 years that have looked as good, if not better, than the one before them. And they've all disappeared. The people that are doing the Leaf that Danny's with, they've got a hell of a thing going. It's a great magazine. And because they're good people. And that has a lot to do with it. And we can weed out the bad people who have gotten involved. The good people always, and their product, whatever it is, will always come to the top. So that's one of the nice things about the weed game. The problem in the weed game is, unlike me, who talk shit about everybody, people don't talk shit about people in the weed game. So when somebody burns somebody or someone does bad business, they keep it quiet instead of talking and spreading and telling everybody that, no, you don't want to do business with that person. Yep. They pay late. They don't, you know, whatever the deal is. And that comes from everything being illegal at one point. So we couldn't or wouldn't talk about anybody.
Yeah. You didn't say shit.
Do me wrong. I'm gonna take you to court in a minute because that's the only option you give me.
You know? I mean, but you couldn't do it.
I just like to point that out because I like the industry, but if it's
no, it's part of the code sometimes, and sometimes that can get in the way. But you know, by that same token, you're also nobody in the industry until someone has accused you of being a narc or a thief or whatever it might be. So, you know, you kind of got to take them all with a grain of salt as well when you hear them, you know, and then when you hear the same thing about a person a few times, maybe there's some truth to that. But it is, you know, we do live by a code, and that's what Tom was. That's, you know, it's outlaw. You know, people want to say criminal, but it's not criminal. It's just outlaw. And that's a difference. Okay. And that's where there's a code. That's where there's a code.
We're not breaking any laws. We're just not.
Right. It's outside of the law. And, you know, and you can change the law, and that's awesome. And we need that because we don't want to go to jail, and, you know, but we're going to do this either way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy it's less risky. I'm happy it's less dangerous. I'm happy. I can envision it being us coming this far even 20 or 30 years ago when I first met Adam. And, you know, when Amsterdam was the only place where you could feel this type of freedom. You know, we've come so far that it's hard to believe how far we've come. And then you realize how much further you got to go. And if you're in service to the plant, then you last. And, you know, and if you're here to just profit and jump in and jump out, it doesn't last. So, you know, I mean, that's really the bottom line. It's really about just, you can't make it about yourself. You can't make it about, you know, money. You can't make it about, you know, taking over. Just be in service to the plant.
Exactly. Spread
the message, spread the word, and hope it helps and works. And that's really all you can do. And like I said, whether it was legal or not, we'd still be doing it. So it's, you know, that's where the word outlaw comes in. And that's what Tom was. That's what we all are. That the one, you know, those of us who are here for eternity, you know, or for the long haul.
And that's, you know, it's everything you've just mentioned is something that
and that's the thing with.
That's the thing.
Go for it, Jeff. He's in a lag.
Oh, I think it's.
I was going to say the thing with hash bash and why I got involved, because hash bash is one of those things that no matter what you do, no matter what law you pass, we're going to come out and say, fuck you, we're smoking a joint. And just for the record, it's illegal to smoke a joint at hash bash. You can't smoke in public in Michigan. And people get arrested every year for all kinds of reasons. And it's not what people think it is. The event itself has a much bigger persona than its reality, but that's okay. That's what reality is about nowadays. But this is really about moving the ball forward. So anything that moves the ball forward, even misinformation that moves the ball forward. You know, the MORE Act was voted on in the House of Representatives, and people think that pot was legalized.
No.
federally.
Nope.
You'd be
No.
surprised.
And
No.
it's not
the
even
heading, the headlines of the newspaper article didn't even get it right. And,
Yeah.
And
I'm
all
just
of that's a
convinced
good
there are
thing
people that
because
can't read at this
the
point.
reality is it moves the ball forward.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's everything that you guys just said is something that me personally, excuse me, I just, came into this year. You know what I'm saying? I consider it a career change, if you will, because I didn't jump ship. The ship like drowned or like went down or some shit, COVID happened. So it was like, I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And I'm sitting there smoking a joint and the answer was so clear. I was like, well, holy shit. All right, fine. So like, I did a little bit of reading for the first couple of weeks, collected those stupid unemployment checks that we got sent out. I was doing a private chef thing. So they covered that as well. And they were real cool. They were foreigners. They clearly went back to their country, they felt bad. But at the same time, like, I was all right, but I still knew that in the long run, there's going to need to be something, you know what I'm saying? What if it's not restaurants and what if it's not this, And so I was like, all right, well, I don't shut the hell up. So that's, let's just put that to use, you know what I'm saying? So I learned more about the plant. And so I learned more about the endocannabinoid system. And when Mr. Brook, told me it's not the entourage effect, it's the ensemble effect, I looked into it and the science is there, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, each one teach one, as we would say in the kitchen. I'm sure you've heard it other places. But what that means is if the chef teaches you something, that is absolute gold, especially if you're not a sous chef. He'll teach you sous chef stuff because they're apprentices. They're learning. They're wanting to move up to chef. That's what they're doing. Your line cooks, if a chef shows you something, that's a special moment. And you learn from that. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's good or bad. Usually bad. But the point is, it's you learn from it. And from that, I kind of pivoted to, learning about, I've got all kinds of flyers. Ask Eric. I've sent him all kinds of stuff and he loves it. My buddy Josh, we all talk about the endocannabinoid system. I'll be honest with you. A few years ago, I probably wouldn't have talked to these people. I'd have just been, work and home. And that wasn't really a life either, So this has really opened up doors for me and opened up my mind to so much more of that. It's insane that people can't heal from this. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, well, hang on a second, try this CBD cream. Just trust me. You know what I mean? It's not going to get you high. And then you have to show them the science and it's kind of exhausting, erasing that stigma, but it's working. You know what I mean? Like I said, I had 95-year-old Esther, call me and ask me about the same cream. And I told her it's going to work. And she goes, it's not snake oil, is it? And that's when I knew, and I was like, oh shit, this is real, And so we got it to her and she used it. What was it? 45 minutes later, she called me. She was like, it's working. And that she just blew her mind.
Yeah, it's a common response we get, especially from the older crowd. My people that do the quilting, knitting, things like that. Especially
the hands, yeah.
Of all different sorts. And the arthritic people love the balms and cream, the balms that we make. It's been amazing how much positive feedback I've gotten over the last year of really having consisting the product down and doing it in a way of like marketing it as a product now. It's about a year of research and development, inadvertently not trying to, do a product by any means at first, but that's what it turns into. And it's helped a lot of people. And we've got a lot of people that say, it works better than their medications they're taking for their pain, and best relief they've gotten in 7, 10 plus years sometimes we get. So it's just nice to hear.
I got a quick question. Someone just texted me and asked, Mr. Brook, Mr. Danko, you guys both knew Jack Hara.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to explain to this person who Jack Hara was and how he is iconic?
He wouldn't have been happy.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, for starters, I mean, he started the hemp movement. He wrote the book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, basically challenged anyone to prove any of it wrong, and he'd give him 10 grand. He fought against, the powers that be at some of the biggest organizations too, because he was unapologetic and uncompromising. He was really, sort of a real freedom fighter, you know, someone who pushes the boundaries as far as they can go. And, you know, I had the pleasure of actually working a booth, sitting next to his booth at a Cannabis Cup, and, you know, spent a lot of time talking to him about hemp and cannabis and mushrooms at the time when he was really very interested in mushrooms. Kept trying to feed me mushrooms the whole time. And then finally I did eat some on the last day. You know, I was working, so I didn't want to be tripping. But yeah, I mean, you know, he was an ornery guy too. You know, he could, you know, terror rhymes with terror. You know, some people say Herrera, you know, but it was Herrera, and it rhymes with terror. He could be, you know, his unapologeticness. You know, he like Adam, he was not anyone who suffered bullshit in any way. He did not want to be paying taxes on cannabis. He didn't want the government profiting at all from legalizing. He felt like the hypocrisy was, you know,
not at all.
The amount of propaganda over the 50 years, you know, and that's what was able to turn all those people you're talking about, you know, those older people against cannabis, because it was a medicine for thousands of years before that, and Jack proved it. And it was only since the 30s that, you know, it was really kind of, you know, and then it kind of ramped up, obviously, at post World War II, and then Nixon again ramped it up again, and then Reagan ramped it up again. But, you know, really, we're only talking about a 70-year gap in knowledge and understanding. And Jack saw that, and it pointed out the hypocrisy of the American government with Hemp for Victory and all these ways that hemp was supposed to help us in the war. And, you know, and he was a great man. Like I said, uncompromising. I would not say that I am uncompromising. I'm willing to make compromises. You know what I mean? And I don't, you know, I'll happy to pay tax if it keeps me out of jail. You know, that's kind of more practical, you know, in that way. But Jack, you know, was fierce, and, you know, he fought hard, and you need those type of fighters to push forward on the front lines. And that's, you know, a freedom fighter.
100%. I mean, that's, you know, I hear stories about him. You know, I hear stories about you,
I'd like to hear Adam's. Yeah, because
that's what I was going to say.
Imagine much better than myself.
Well, I mean, you got to build a different perspective. You know, put all the pieces together. That was my idea of it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Did he freeze up?
Jack, when I met Jack, he was doing the hemp tours in 88, 89. And nobody was doing hemp tours. You got to understand that. And there was only 3 or 4 events in the whole fucking country all year long. Yeah. So it was bizarre. I mean, here comes this guy who, what he did was he compiled all the information to tell people, here, take this and show people how wrong they are. Here's everything. Here's all you need to know. And, you know, Jack ran a head shop out in California. He was a salesman. I got from Jack a list of all the head shops in the country that were on his list at one point, because I was in the head shop business. And Jack was the type of guy that anything he could do to help you out and educate you and teach you and learn you, and that was what he was about. And he used to come to Michigan all the time. He had a girlfriend here. So he used to come to Michigan all the time, not just for hash bash. And, you know, his anti-tax thing happened long before anybody was charging any tax. And his concept was, I'm not going to pay them tax money after the way they treated me me and my people for the last 80 years. And I get that. And I kind of have this little campaign. I call it hashtag I'm with Jack. I've actually never purchased legal cannabis in a dispensary in Michigan and paid tax. I won't do that. I'm a black market guy. I buy on the street. So, and the only reason I buy over the counter in a place like Amsterdam is because it's tolerated. So I don't mind paying the tax, but it's just as illegal.
No, what about the show?
You know, it's an interesting concept to reward people.
Sorry about that.
I do a morning show
on
Facebook Live called Have with that. we check. It's basically lottery game. It's checking my morning blood glucose number and dabbing and talking about weed. And I give away prizes if you get the number right or you're within 2 without going over. If you box it, we give you a prize. And I think it's the only weed blood glucose game show in the world. So that's what I do every morning. I get up 9 o'clock on the weekend, 9 o'clock on the weekend.
Check it out. And then you got Mr. Danko here with
I get some I get some pretty large
Yeah, one last thing about Jack I will say is that, you know, I was really into weed, as into weed as you can be, growing it, selling it, smoking it, everything. Really into weed. Every day, all the time. But Jack made me an activist.
Nice.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
You know, guys, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show
Listen,
today.
Jack, I tell this story all the time.
One more time. Sorry, you were going to say something about Jack.
Oh, good.
Right?
I appreciate it.
We're having some audio issues.
I was just going to tell this quick story about Jack when I go through customs. Yeah, when I go through customs and they fuck with me, I tell them, you know, you guys once busted a buddy of mine for 0.3 of a gram of weed because you turned his pockets inside out and you brushed them out and onto a piece of paper. I said, I did that last night before I packed everything and put it in there. And they're like, we wouldn't do that. I say,
yeah, you
go to your computer and type in the name Jack Hare and see what you guys did to him. I mean, Jack was one of those guys that he proudly took that. I mean, he fought it, but you know, he was a stand-up guy, and there was no better activist than Jack. He really triggered people and got them moving, and because of that, they created a strain named after him.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I've met people who know the strain and don't know the man, and it's a pleasure to tell them all about him.
And
because they need to know who he was too. You know, I mean, it's important. In Spain, they're like, this man must be very important. You know,
because he is. Because he is.
Jack Herrera. I smoke this all. So they're but then they love hearing about who he really was, and he and his buddy made a pact that they were gonna legalize weed, you know, legalize cannabis, and
let's get it there, guys.
We're still working on it.
Yeah, it's you know, we haven't really come close to where we want to be. We're getting there. You know, it's really opened my eyes. I'm not on y'all's level yet, but you know, if I can help in any way push the car forward to get it to the destination, you know, we're going to get it across that finish line. And that's really what it comes down to. Because here soon, y'all, and you know it doesn't matter, you know, what generation you're in the cannabis game, you know, food's going to get involved sooner or later. Considering the fact that people are going to start using this to save the economy. Yes, if you can put CBD in food, guess what? People are going to want to buy that. That's going to save the restaurant business, or it very well could, because people will do that. You know what I'm saying? Developing that idea, that's where people like myself come in and bridging the generational gaps. But again, guys, it's an amazing show. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on today. It's not only an honor, but a privilege to be able to do this for y'all. Anything we can do, definitely let us know. Again, thank you guys so much for what you do. Seriously, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. We
Absolutely.
do it for the plant. It's been a pleasure to be on here with you guys, especially Adam. I don't get to catch up with them as often as I'd love to. But yeah, thank you. Stay in service to the plant, and the plant will serve you back.
Absolutely. As always, guys, this has been another episode of the Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles. I'm your host, Chef Rodney 117. You'll have a good one. Peace.